Good morning. I was going to type all this out, but then I just thought I've actually got the day off today, so I might just record it. So I'm going to reply to Legend of Nelda's comment about me saying about Darius is hiding, kind of, and this thing about Slothermism. Well, that's the first point, because they're both interesting points. Yes, Slotham isn't showing his face, but don't you think it's interesting that most of the people, I've said this to Ricardo, we were talking about this, and he was saying that if he had the choice again, he wouldn't have shown his face, because what you're going to get from it is my opinion on it. Yes, you can interact with people better if you're on time with them or whatever, but at the end of the day there's a lot of people out there who aren't your mates, and so that's my reason. I'm just like, well, what's the point? And also, the whole character thing, if you want to do something artistic or you want to do something more imaginative with it, you don't want to sort of kill that as well. That's kind of killing part of the creativity in some ways, and that's just a different take on how you look at it. But also, my point originally was, don't you think it's interesting that a lot of the people who have got their faces on display are some of the fakest fucking people you've come across? And that, I would say, is because of this false self situation in a lot of cases. And fair dues to some people, because they break through the original false self, which is the avatar, the obviously classic, it's got the clues in the name, but it's maybe, I don't know, it's complicated, but for me, all I can see is the proof is in the pudding. Some of the fakest people are the ones that show their face, and the realest people have been the ones that have hidden their face. That's just my take on that. That's just my preference, I suppose, artistically. The thing about what you're saying, that Slotham is barking orders, there you go, it's just clear. You're saying it with your own words, mate. Barking orders, that's how you're seeing things, that's how you see the world. It's called feedback, it's called people talking. But I'll go into this a little bit. I've written some notes because it's an interesting one. And basically, going back to that thing that I was saying about how I was on a train sort of thing, or I wasn't, but I kind of was in a weird way. You kind of, if you are on that, you're looking at a situation, but it has got a frame around it. It's framed. You can only see so much. That's my personal opinion on it. Because you've still got restrictions on you. You're on an owl for a start. And you're not free to, if you wanted to go and talk to fish lips or something, should you want to, it wouldn't go down very well if you went on your main, would it? And it's just things like that. Now, any community, if you went and did something extreme like that, there'd be questions, maybe just because people are like, well, what the fuck was going on there? But it's just not the same as it is in that particular community, where you would just be excommunicated as a threat straight away because someone once said that they'd seen someone say that they'd seen you do it, and that'd be enough if the tide was turning in the wrong way for you, if the manipulation of the positives and negatives that you're seeing so clearly at the moment, like the barking orders, if that wasn't going in your favour for some reason at that point, then that could just be made up for you. And that's what your community's like. That's because they have the power of doing that. Whereas in other communities, you're seen outside of that, so that doesn't have the power. So someone could say that about someone, and someone would be like, all right, well, I'll ask him about that when I see him. And it's just even if you did, it'd just be like, okay, so let us know what's your takeaway from that or something. The outcome wouldn't be something that you would fear. You're not sort of blinkering yourself if you're outside of it. But you kind of have to blinker yourself when you're in it a little bit. And I think if you're honest with yourself, you've got to think that, let's go back to my notes anyway. It's not about always hearing what you want to hear or not always hearing what you want to hear. Like that goes back to the sort of, sometimes mummy gives you what you want and sometimes mummy doesn't give you what you want, and it's like you grow out of that, you go past looking at the world in that very simple way. And I think that's what I was going to go back to before. It's like, I assume that you do think about the world in a deeper way when you're outside of this situation. Like, you're a grown adult, you must, and I've seen your messages before and they're not totally deluded. I mean, some of them are, but like, they're not, some of them are like intentionally deluded, I think, with your messages, and that's cool. But like, yeah, I think you can see, you know, most people, if they're going to get out of bed and not be a complete quivering wreck like Fart TV, they can kind of see the world in a slightly more in-depth way than that most of the time. So what that got me thinking about was like how we kind of caught that infantile response for entertainment's sake in this environment a little bit, and that's kind of, it's just part of it. It's not the entire part of it, but it is a part of it, and it's used in a certain artistic way, in my opinion, to sort of make other things pop, and it's just part of that palette that's used. And I think under certain circumstances that can be utilised, because if you have got kind of like a flabby brain mode, we all have it for a bit, you know, we're getting older as well, like, so like you could easily, like, get old man head or old lady head, it can easily happen. We all know people that's happened to. And so, I mean, I would argue that happened to Radical Rick, you know, for a bit anyway. I'd even argue that it maybe even happened to Darius at some point. And you just start sort of just going down your pathways and not really challenging yourself, and just going into this really comfortable mindset, which again can be really easily manipulated if someone's got a reason to do it. I'm just urging you not to go into it, because it's easy to do that because of this unique situation that we're in, where we're kind of courting that response in some ways for joke's sake. But don't let it like sort of bleed in to your actual interpretation of events, if you can. Sort of, that's the thing about the cult mentality, because you're sort of in it for the jokes, you kind of have to be in it, so you're kind of having to go with their way of thinking, which is very infantile. And if you look at Albert, you know, and Dean, and, you know, some of Darius's, but his was sort of for comedy's sake. But I do think it's a bit like that South Park, where he's doing the Tourette's, and he just, you know, I've got a golden ticket, you know, that one, and it's like that. I think it kind of like bleeds into the rest of it. I think once you step out of that and start looking at it like really honestly and going like all these little things that stop you from thinking about it for a second, and just sit out of that for a second, you get so much more from it. You can still be part of that and still enjoy that, but being more self-aware of it, and being able to just really learn about humanity through it, and about group mentality and your own like mentality. And from my point of view, it's bloody interesting. The day I got off that train was so much, it was better than anything. It was like just everything opened up to me. I could see so many things and joining up in. I thought I could before, you see, that was it. I thought I could, and it was just a screen. It was there, but it was just a screen in front of me. It felt like that anyway. What else have I got? So yeah, the thing about the flabby brain, if it's just like, if you've also got that following trait, or a lack of, like a temporary lack of self-awareness for some reason, it could be something going off in your real life, or something that you're wanting to escape from, or, you know, just don't let it hang on for too long, do you know what I mean? It's like, drinking wine's lovely, but don't drink it every day. Drink beer every day, but what else have I got? I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, oh no, that was it. Yeah, so it's like when that mindset becomes more normalised in like a community, as I was saying earlier, then it really is a carrot and stick, because, and I don't think it's intentional in a lot of cases, but it is like, it's just the way people work, the way they get things done, the way they get their achievements. They're just like, oh yeah, if I they just know intrinsically that if they manipulate in a certain way of like carrot and stick, that they'll get it. So you're seeing it like that is my point. And it's not carrot and stick over here. It's just, well, in my interpretation of it, anyway, maybe Slatham's got a different view on it, but it's just feedback. It's just people talking and saying things. And in this case, it's just, it's absolutely fine. But like, even if someone had negative feedback, it's not negative. It's not barking orders. It's not you going then, oh no, I need to do that because otherwise, oh no, that person's going to be upset with me, or that person's going to not like me anymore, or whatever the threat is in your community, which is very different to that, isn't it? But I'm going down to like the very core things. But we all know there's a whole host of threats and all sorts of things, unsaid and otherwise. So every interaction is just tinged with it. Every single interaction that you guys have has some tinging of that on it, and that's because everyone is scared. That the people in charge are scared, and then they're in charge of you guys who are scared at some level. Now, you're not all like quivering wrecks, but you're like, oh, best not do that, or yeah, let's just keep that one quiet because like he's just going to have a kick off. Oh, there he goes again. And it's all fun and games and stuff, and it really is. And it's like almost like you can't have that without that. But you just have to look at things differently, I think, to get that without that, if you know what I mean. Like, just that fear conditioning, there really is no need for it. So if you can see outside of that, then I think you're going to have a bit more of a laugh about everything.